Everyone is welcome here, it's time to make new friends. Aquavide Uskava, fill your Glencairn. Share a dram with the spirit of Edmonton. Slancha!
Like Opa. Good day, whiskey brothers and whiskey sisters, and welcome to the International Whiskey Journey. We are honored to have you, the viewer, and our panel, all these cats to the side with us here today. My name's Dolph. I'm the founder of the International Whiskey Journey. I'm your host tonight. And for those of you that are a little bit new to us, I'll explain a bit of what we're about. We are a group of whiskey geeks that love to share a dram. But why an International Whiskey Journey? First and foremost, I love international whiskeys, which I believe don't get the kudos they really deserve. So this is, therefore, is both a great way to drink some fantastic quality whiskey and do my part to promote international whiskeys every weekend this summer. So I think that's a good idea. Now, we're at Hinch Distillery, which represents the inaugural distillery in our tour this summer. They're number one. And we're joined by Aaron, which is Hinch's master distiller, Michael, Hinch's global head of sales, and our panel members, Dave, Richard, and standing in for Joss, we have Paul on the side, and his father to the side as well, hanging out with us today.
Yes.
So let's start our round table introductions with our names, our other platform handles if you have them, and we're going to start with the panel members. So we're going to go Dave, Rich, Paul, and then we're going to go to our special guest, Michael, and finish off with Aaron. All right, you're up, Dave.
Hi, everybody. It's Yukon Dave coming from his basement, and I'm looking forward to this Hinch one here. My Irish collection is 7 bottles, and I'm looking forward to something new.
Well, you're slowly developing it. It's good.
I'm getting there.
Rich, you're up.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? I'm also coming from my basement, live from Salt Spring Island. You can find me at We Rock Whiskey on Twitter. Super stoked to be here, as I am every week, Dolph and everybody else. So let's bring it on. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Excellent.
And
Paul,
Paul,
how you doing, Paul?
I'm doing just great, thanks. Standing in for Joss Happy, as Dolph mentioned earlier, the Toronto chapter of Dram Society of Canada. Thrilled to be here to participate and really looking forward to trying the whiskey.
And we're really happy to have you. Michael.
So, Michael Morris, I'm the International Sales Director for Hinch Distillery. So for my sins, I have to travel around 25, before pre-COVID, 25, 30 markets around the world selling our lovely whiskey. And it's lovely for me to be here today with our friends in Canada.
Nice. Thank you, sir. And Aaron, the big man on the end.
Hi there, how you doing? I'm Aaron Flaherty and I'm the head distiller at Hinch Distillery. I'm not coming from my basement this evening. We're actually fortunate enough in Northern Ireland here to be experiencing the hottest day of the year. So I've brought the laptop out into the garden here and enjoying a bit of beautiful sunshine here while we can enjoy these whiskies.
Fantastic. It's a good thing. And I wish I had the shirt. You guys sent me the vest, which works in Canada 10 months out of the year. But I think we're at 30 degrees here in my basement as well. But no air conditioning back here. I'll be pulling this vest off in just a little bit. But I just want to show that off because that's one sharp looking one. Let's talk about really quick. We've got 2 whiskeys tonight. So those of us following along, you might have the set of 4 that we might have talked about with the Hinch Distillery. But we're doing the double wood, the 5-year-old double wood, and the single malt peated. So we're dealing with that. So those of you on the side tonight, if you could actually just get those out. And I'm going to start with a couple pictures, if I may. So let's do these pictures. I want to show you guys the background. So here's Hinch Distillery at night. It's beautiful. In the day, this is what it looks like. And this is the view they have.
Oh, wow.
And
beautiful.
Isn't this a nice place? Like, we all want to go there. This place is absolutely beautiful. And I'm going to start with Michael. And Michael said that I should give Aaron most of the questions, and he wanted to sit in the background. But, Michael, I'm going to get you involved right away.
Yeah.
Was everything that we see and all the pictures online, there's a lot, and you guys have some fantastic pictures that you have on Facebook, and I think everyone should go there. And I'm pretty sure that it's Jamie that put up a lot of the pictures there from the distillery. So kudos to him. You're the 36th functioning distillery out of are you at 41 distilleries in Ireland right now?
41 as of July is true, and they reckon we might be at 48 by the end of the year.
Woo. Well, you're 36. You got in not ground floor, but you're gonna let's hope it goes over 50 soon, and or over 100, and you'll be in the first third. I want to know whose design the distillery was, because I'm guessing it's Dr. Cross had the majority of the influence. But I'm wondering if you, Michael, and Aaron, being the master distiller there, had very much say in it. So I'm going to throw that to you. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's a good question, actually. This is very much Dr. Cross's project and his vision. So he unusually had a very strong view that, as well as kind of making a top of the range whiskey distillery, making top class whiskey and gin as well, but he wanted a visitor center that we could be proud of. So Terry's vision all along was that there would be this fantastic visitor center, because Terry's all about the long term. So he felt that making a world-class production facility, which is my end, which is where Aaron and I work. Aaron makes the stuff. I'm selling the stuff. But Terry wanted to have the heart and the home being this wonderful facility. So he got Drinksology, who are a young company making themselves, they're making great noises around the world. They're local guys. They come from Belfast. And they essentially took Terry's vision, and they ended up with the architecture in terms of how that distillery looks. And me, for one, I thought it was going way too far. But as it's now opened, because we're whiskey people, I thought, no, this is going to be, and it's proven to be beautiful, as well as a top class production facility.
It is. It's absolutely beautiful, and we all want to go there one day. I'm going to make some people jealous, but to make people even more jealous, I think they should go to the Facebook page again, and because you have several clips, video clips in there on the progression on how things were made when the stills were brought in, and I think if people want to get a good idea how you started off, I think they should go to that page. So many videos, lots of information on your Facebook page. I think everyone should go. But I'm going to throw some more pictures up here, Michael. And this is kind of a long question, so stick with me. I got this information from the Spirits Business, 21st of November by Nicola Carruthers. And this, well, they don't have these pictures. I like the pictures. And I'm going to go through them again. But as I do this, I'll just say, you got 2 floors that house whiskey, gin production, a bottling line, storage facilities, visitor center that includes a coffee shop, public restaurant, pub, outside courtyard space, event space, visitor experience that has the history of Irish whiskey, a tutored tasting area, a gin and tour that will give consumers up to opportunity to make their own gins, and the site will have 100,000 visitors every year. Now, Carruthers also says that the project's supposed to create 42 jobs in the next 5 years, generate 1.3 million pounds, and did this all happen? So I'm wondering, did it all happen just like she predicted 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Oh, I kid you not. If you turned up, those Aaron and I would know that those pictures, which were back in the day, the vision of Terry, what he wanted to happen, it's all in place, everything exactly as you just showed it there. So what we have now is we've got this fantastic facility, production-wise, which I keep coming back to that, making great whiskey, which is Aaron's going to talk about, great gin and so on. But we've got a world-class visitor center. We're 10 miles from Belfast. Anybody that's coming, and we work closely with the tourist board, and Terry again was influential in this. We've got millions of people coming to the south of Ireland, and they come to the north for 1 day, 2 days. Yeah. So, and there's lots of nice things to see, but it's a 2-day visit. Now we're so close to Belfast. When people are going to see the Titanic and so on, the Titanic quarter, the famous ship, that we're 10 miles away, 12 miles away. They can come and see us now. They don't have to go further north to see a really top class Irish whiskey distillery. And so he wanted to make sure that we would be ready. And I will say one thing, there's nothing wrong with our ambition, 100,000 visitors is what we are geared to come. And can I just say one last thing? When COVID, of course, hit, when COVID hit, there was the deniers. People were going, "Oh, flip! You got to slow this all down. Mothball the distillery, the visitor center. Go ahead with the production site." And Dr. Cross said, "No. What we got to do is COVID will end. We're going to build our facility, and it's the field of dreams. We'll build it. They will come." And that's what's going to happen, I think, now.
And they're coming. I need you to comment on this room right here. So this is called the Spectrum Room. And I'm wondering, is this where the course takes place? Because I think this is a phenomenal idea. And if one of you, either you or Aaron, can talk about this room and how it kind of fits into the distillery tours or the workings of the distillery, because I love that.
I'd love to steal Aaron's glory, but I'm going to let him do it.
All right, Aaron, you're up.
I thought you might be passing that one, Michael. No, so the Spectrum Room is really it's a key part of the whiskey tour. So what we've tried to do with the whiskey tour at our facility anyway is, because I've been on a few distillery tours both in Scotland when I worked there and obviously back here in Ireland, and some facilities, their grounds are so big that they can afford to just walk you around the grounds and then drop you off at the bar at the end, and in essence you've taken up 45 minutes to an hour. With our own setup, and you've seen there from the pictures, it's not over a vast space. And so what we want the tour to be is to have these certain touch points, real key integral points, where you sit and you actually learn. You can, discuss with both the guide and other people on the tour various different aspects of whiskey production that maybe don't get touched upon in great detail on other tours. So if you look at the whiskey tour, there's sort of three key touch points. The first is the ingredients room, where you go in and you're basically surrounded by malted barley, unmalted barley, peated barley, corn, and other things that are used in the whiskey process in Ireland. And you can taste, you can touch, you can make up little mini mashes, etc. And then you go on the tour and you actually start into that. But where the Spectrum Room comes into play is, it is once you've walked through the mash house and distillation, you then come into the Spectrum Room, and again, everyone is basically seated around the table there. And on that photograph, what you're actually seeing is the far end of the room, and that is totally dedicated to maturation. Okay. But what is actually behind the camera on that photograph is a similar backdrop with the same amount of bottles, but with no color whatsoever. Because as we look at that picture, what would be behind you is a total wall dedicated to new make. So each panel that you're seeing in front of you is mirrored behind you, and each panel represents something different. So behind you, you would have a panel dedicated to double distillation, triple distillation, distillation where you're trying to get a fruity character, distillations where you're trying to get a meaty, nutty character. And then on the reverse side, which is what you're seeing here, is you're seeing a panel for each of the different wood types or cask types and how that influences the spirit. So if you look, for example, to the far left, that will be representing what a bourbon refill cask would do. As you then move from left to right, you'll basically have a second fill bourbon, then a first fill bourbon, a virgin oak cask. You'll then move on to what a sherry second fill, sherry first fill, what a wine cask would do, and what a port cask would do. So when you're looking at the bottom left of each panel, you'll see there's no color in the liquid because that's new make. Yeah. As you then move left to right on the bottom row, that's you getting from day 0 up to around a year. The middle row is from maybe a year to 6 years. And then the top row is from 7 years on to 18s, 21s. So what you're doing there is you're seeing firsthand, very quickly and very graphically, how the wood influences color specifically on the spirit. But we also have some little atomizers that actually allow you to atomize both new make spirits and indeed mature spirits to allow you to actually know what those would be like.
Wow.
So it's all about the senses, everything about whiskey is about touching your senses, not just taste and nose, but memories, etc. And that's what we're trying to really impress on the tour here.
What do you think of that, panel? Like I've thought about things like that before, but on a much smaller scale. So, how about you guys? Have you used anything like that in your tastings? Because Dave, Richard, Paul, I think you've done tastings or led the tastings as well. How cool would that be to have that with you?
That's a spectacular presentation. I mean, honestly, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Really something to see.
Dave, it looks like you're trying to say
you're on mute.
Yeah, we're good, bud.
It's always me, right? But to be able to present the start to basically the finish of a whiskey would just be amazing. To see the progression and how things change over time. I've got some of our new make here and that kind of stuff, but nothing like what I just saw.
And yeah. Aaron and Michael, Dave didn't say it. He works for one of our most loved distilleries here in Canada. So 2 brewers, and they've been making whiskey for, is it 9 years now? Dave?
12.
12 for the, okay. We've had it on the market for 9 years, and it's fantastic. So Dave's got a different kind of perspective than a lot of us do. He's our Edmonton brand ambassador, our most loved man on here, and the gentleman who's been on just about every show with me since I started this a year and a half ago, and he still doesn't know how to unmute himself, but he's fantastic. We love having Aaron, was that your idea for the Spectrum Room?
Yeah, I wish I would say that the initial idea was my own, but that actually came from, again, with the guys at Drinksology. And what we then were actually able to do was, when we got involved with them and the whole concept, we could then actually really shape which casks we were looking at and which casks we were going to represent. Because the other fortunate thing with Terry Cross, our owner, is he actually has a vineyard in Bordeaux, Chateau de la Ligne. So then there was a natural link there to actually use his wine casks for some of our maturation. So one of those panels on the coloured side, on the maturation end, is actually one of those casks. So that's where then we were able to put our influence onto that. You'll notice, if you can see the picture clearly as well, you'll notice if you look at the top right, on each panel, there are always 2 bottles which just seem to stand out from the rest even more in striking colour. And what we're saying there is, that would be what would happen if you take that. So let's say, for example, the panel I can see here on the, if you look at the 2 middle panels, the one on the left, there's the top right corner there. There's 2 bottles which are particularly dark. Yep. And what we're basically saying is that would have been a virgin oak cask. But then those 2, when they've got up to that 18, 20-year-old stage, we've then put for a second maturation into a sherry. And that's where you're seeing. So those last 2 are those links. And that's where we've had the influence to say, okay, because I was lucky enough that, you know, Terry affords you the opportunity to experiment with a lot of our spirits. And actually, fun, it was a nice link as well. My 40th birthday was on the 12th of March. And I actually filled 13 bespoke casks with our new make, which ranged from, we had a Pedro Jimenez, we had an Oloroso, we had a lot of wood there that you would expect people to finish spirit in. We have went from day 1 into, and I want to see how those develop. And that will then lead to making some decisions further down the line with our total inventory of casks. So that's how we were able to play about with the Drinksology idea for that room.
Nice. And let's go back to Dr. Cross just for a second, because I'm wondering, how much did he conceive? Like, did he have his broad strokes? I want this, and then come to Michael and come to Aaron and say, what do you think we should do here? What do you think we should do here? I'm wondering how much say you kind of had in his process, or did he have this gigantic vision before he hired anybody?
Yeah, that the latter saying there is what happened. Terry wanted to be Terry, who I've known for 25 years on and off. Terry wanted to come into the game at the top end. He didn't want to be a straggler. He didn't want to be small. He wanted to be independent, and we're going to talk about that. So what he did was Drinksology, who are partners of ours in other ways, he said, I want to have a fantastic facility where people will know that we have taken the seat at the top table, and everything that we do will reflect exactly what I believe. So they went away, the Drinksology guys, to be fair, they then took that broad kind of idea that this, you know, it wasn't going to be a shed. This wasn't going to be a production facility in a shed. He went, I want to be making top quality whiskey, yes, but I also want the education, the home of the beating heart of the distillery to be a wow experience. And he gave them an open brief. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't come back and forward arguing about the money element in terms of delivering that, but what Terry did do was he put his money where his mouth was, because he wanted that done to the nth degree, and that's what we've ended up with. I personally have been in the Irish whiskey business for over 25, 30 years. And the facility that we have, I have to say, it's easy for me to say because it's actually true. If there is a better looking distillery anywhere in the country, and also distilleries in Scotland, and I've been in Scotland many times, I've been to Kentucky. I think we're right there or thereabouts at the top table. That's a fact. And that came from nothing.
Nice. So, Richard, you and I, if we want to open the distillery on the Salt Spring Islands there, we don't have to consult anyone. We just get one little company, and we pour all our life savings, and we mortgage both of our houses. I'm sure our wives will be happy. And
They'd be thrilled. They'd be absolutely thrilled, yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know what anyone else's problem is. All right. I'm going to throw a quote up here because and Dave knows this, and some other people,
Always.
I like my quotes. Yeah, right here. And this comes from that article that we had from Carruthers again. Hinch's marketing team touts their impressive results as evidence of the brand's vision and future success. For instance, while distribution only began in mid-2019, by early 2020, they had 20 international markets. And that's all Michael's work. Further, they plan to be sold in 35 to 40 markets by 2021. So she's right, wasn't she, Michael?
She would have been right, but for COVID. We're at 28 markets.
28.
Failure.
Okay.
28.
No, that's not a failure whatsoever. But
it's not a failure at all. Yeah, but the year before COVID, I've been in the whiskey business a long time, and I know my way around the markets. Terry's vision, Terry's product, Terry's distillery. So give us a very strong story. So actually I spent, not that I was counting, but 225,000 miles around the world, meeting with the various distributors to get it all lined up and signed up. And, it's interesting. Back then, all I had was drawings of what you've seen now in these images, which are identical to what I was showing people. But I was trying to get distributors to buy into the fact that we were going to do this, that Terry was serious. And we very, very quickly got buy-in from people going, wow, we'd like to be part of that on the ground floor. And actually, can I just give a shout out to Craftwork, because our friends in Craftwork, we met those guys. This is true. Yeah, Yarker and Greg, I met them at the London Whiskey Live, 2019, I think it was. And they are actually signed up. Now, they didn't get, I'll say this. We couldn't get product out to Canada first, but they were the first people that we signed up as distributors in the world.
Beautiful. I was going to say first in North America, but no, we're in the world. Good job.
No, honestly, they came, they tasted the whiskeys with myself and the marketing guy. They were saying to me that they had nice English whiskey, some nice Scotch, and so on. They were a young company, and I just thought there was a synergy because we're new, we're young, and so on. And I knew there was going to be bigger players out there in the bigger markets, but we wanted to have this. Terry's a big thing about the family connection. So the fact that we're in Canada with a young independent company representing independent whiskey companies, of which we're one. I like that, and it's proven to be very successful. They're lovely people, and we've got great hopes for Canada, that's for sure.
Good stuff. And Yark and Greg are fairly decisive when they do stuff like this. I'm getting feedback from somebody. So
probably me. Myself.
Maybe not. We'll figure it out. But Yark and Greg, Craftwork Spirits, we're going to give the kudos to them because they're supplying all of the beautiful liquid that was behind me for this to actually happen. There's a reason why you guys were number one. They wanted you first and foremost. So it's I love it. So I don't want to diminish any of the 9 to come after, but they were very adamant they'd like to have you first. So I'm really happy you're here. But it wasn't an easy gig for you to do that many, because it must have been hard promoting a brand new, unproven label. It's a label. You had proven quality components. So you had the wood that was proven. You had Aaron, which was a proven guy in the field. You had most likely very good liquid that's going to come out. How do you promote something when you've got the background? You have something that should make fantastic spirit, but you're not proven yet. So to get to almost 30 right away is pretty impressive. So good job there, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation, and without me patting myself in the back endlessly, which of course I'm always keen to do, I'll jump in here at any point. But no, genuinely, the big thing for us was I've been, as I say, in the Irish whiskey game a long time. So you have to remember that as well as spending £15 million on building a distillery, Terry bought 5 million quid's worth of casks. So we Hinch bought up on the island of Ireland a lot of the old mature whiskey that was around. It's not around anymore. It's all gone. But Terry took the view that he wanted to have a bridge with some mature liquor that we could get the Hinch name out. And then when Aaron came along, much later, by the way, so we were saying, look, we're going to put a statement out there about our name, our whiskey, and then we're going to say loads of Hail Marys about someone like Aaron coming along who could make a whiskey to build the bridge. Yeah. No, but seriously, on a serious point, it was fluky that and lucky, and thank goodness that Aaron came on board when he did, because we were making a very strong statement. We bought old Cooley stock, old Bushmills. We were changing the DNA of that whiskey and the wood maturation and so on. We went with this very unusual for an Irish company, Blue Label. We really wanted to own a very typical part of the category. And we had to back it up because, of course, in 3-4 years' time, the whiskey that we bought is going to start diminishing, even though we bought a lot of it. But the great thing is now that this fantastic spirit that Aaron's making, the single malt, is going to now come into the blends. We're going to have our single malts that we need. So we now can see, and here, I'll say this, Dolph, one of the most interesting things about this game is almost all of the serious players are strategic. They're very strategic. They're never thinking about, the real serious guys are never thinking about next week or next year. They're thinking 3, 4, 5, 10 years out. So on the basis that I know that, we've got great agreements in North America and the United States and Canada, Germany, France, with players, distributors who are thinking about the future. So we can provide quality liquid now that we source, that we're very proud about. But it is, again, we're expecting people to say, well done, Hinch, because we're getting people to get, and then, of course, we will then build on the story with our own liquid as it comes to maturity.
And I believe you worked at Cooley beforehand. So do you have some Cooley spirit that came in there? So is it all your background distilleries that you kind of reached out to, or did you make them mad when you left?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Let me get my lawyer.
Yeah, good.
So I worked for John Cheeling, happiest 6 years of my life, actually, working with the Cooley guys, Stephen and Jack and John and so on, and Noel Sweeney. Great times. But I was a commercial manager there. So I was helping to develop, because at that time, Cooley was the only independent. Think about it. That's only 10 years ago. This is crazy. 10 years ago, there was one independent whiskey manufacturer, producer in Ireland, and it was John Teeling at Cooley. So I had left Irish Distillers to work there in Cooley for 6 years, and when Terry Cross started talking, who I knew in business for years, he was starting to make noises about wanting to come into the category in a big way, because Terry never does anything halfway. It's going to be big. And I said to him, the huge thing that you got to do here is there is only a finite amount of mature whiskey and cask available in the island of Ireland. And if you can buy it, if you can afford it, buy it, because that will be the bridge between now and the future. And then when Cooley was taken over by Beam, which became Beam Suntory, there was a fair bit of old Bushmills and old Cooley around. And to be fair, the Teelings took quite a bit of it, but we'll not talk about that. But we bought, in Hinch, we bought a load of it, and because Terry had the cash. And we have now, that's given us a tremendous story. And I can talk about this because I've been in the trenches in the various markets around the world, and we've got mature product all the way out to 19-year-old. We're not pretending we made it. We're saying we're putting our marker in the ground. Our liquid's coming. Aaron's bringing that. We already know our new mix fantastic. So what we're doing is we're creating a high bar. We're putting our stall out, and we're here. We're a player.
Perfect. And Teeling also owned Kilbeggan. Did you get some of Kilbeggan? Is that the pot still that you brought on?
We did not. We did not. I was at the one of the best moments I had was at the 50th anniversary of the Kilbeggan Distillery starting again, when that little pot still started making whiskey. And no, they didn't sell that to anybody.
No, that's too bad. I do like them a lot. I love my pot still, and that's going to come up a bit later as well.
Yeah, that little still, I think, is like 100 years old. And David Hines and Noel and so on, they got that working. And I was there when the new make came out that night at the 50th dinner. My God, it was fantastic.
Nice. I'm envious. Let's get the panel involved a little bit. Let's try some whiskey, gentlemen. So, this is one of the whiskeys that went to many of the other countries. So the 5-year-old Doublewood. This is the information that I have. So, Aaron, correct me if I'm getting anything wrong. It's 75% grain, but I don't know which grain, if it was wheat or oat. Can you tell us what goes into that 75% grain?
Yeah, so that's wheat that we use for that grain, and that's coming again from our essentially partners at Teeling or GND.
And the 25% barley, but is that malted or unmalted? It's malted, right?
That's malted barley, yes.
Malted barley. And we've got aged 4 years ex-bourbon, 1 year, or is it more in virgin American oak?
So what the aim for this was 4 years in the ex-bourbons and then 1 year in the virgin oak. Of course, that could go slightly over the year, but that's where we're aiming for this.
Excellent. Panel, I'm coming to you guys for the nose and the palate, so I'm going to go right across the lower level here. So, Rich, what are you getting on the nose?
It's a really clean spirit. Yeah, it doesn't come across as super malty, but and not that that's a bad thing. It's soft, it's subtle, grassy.
Okay. Dave, anything to add, buddy? And then Paul.
Well, when I always got to go with my first opinion or my first smell. I thought I had a hint of orange in the background there. It wasn't really big, but I really liked it.
No, that's good. And I was getting citrus as well, and at kind of the tip of the nose. It's just the smallest little bit in there. Paul, how about you?
I would agree with that too. I mean, there's a sweetness in the nose that's just fantastic, and the lemon peel is something that jumped out at me.
And for me, it's really lively as well. It's light, it's lively, and I think a little bit of spice with pepper. But I'm having a hard time nailing down the sweet. And Aaron, usually I go to 4 sweets in my mind. It's either a honey, it's a butterscotch, it's a caramel, or it's the powdered sugar is kind of what I kind of bring my mind to. Which one of those would you think, or would you say, is in the background, the sweetness on the nose with this one?
Well, it's not butterscotch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with Dave there, because I've literally just opened a fresh bottle there. Not that I go through it, but just opened a fresh bottle there. And just as Dave says, see, always when you take that first gentle nose, of course, it depends at different times and things, but the overlying one I got there was the citrus. And see, sometimes, as you say, sometimes I try and think of confectionery and things like that and sometimes it's into those toffees, etc. But it's just that it's almost like we used to have these toffee swirls with a little lemony swirl in the middle.
Oh, okay.
That is where I go to with this. It's not like a sherbet lemon as strong as that, but it's just a subtle.
It's a hint.
We have a candy like that, a Werther's candy that has a lemon Werther's candy might do that. So it's really caramel butterscotch hard. It's good. All right, lovely. I like that. And let's go for the palate. Oh, and Michael, just jump in anytime. I don't know if you have this one with you or not. And you do. And you know what? I see the 2th glass with both Michael and Aaron. None of us have it. And I really need one of you to tell me how that enhances an Irish whiskey. So the lip flare at the top, I want to know what that does.
Well, I'm going to let Aaron, I'm going to let him answer the second half of the question. Okay. But the 2th glass, actually, the Glencairn glass is a beautiful nosing, tasting glass. I know those people for years, and it's superb. But it's very, very associated with the Scotch whiskey industry.
Yes.
Scotch. So the people down at the 2th glass, they're trying to create this lovely glass that will be distinctly different. It's the same, but it's different. It's in the same DNA. But that glass, we think it's lovely, and it's not. They're putting the marker down to nose and taste Irish whiskey in this glass, and we're supporting them. The lip and so on, I'm going to leave that to Aaron. I'm not
That's
sure.
Aaron. Okay. And I am really interested in how these work, because we do. And with our Canadian whiskeys as well, we tend to go to the Glencairns as well. But I would like to know, well, it's a little bit different shape as well, Aaron, but then they'll flare at the end. So what can you tell me?
And but even that you're talking about the main body of the glass, but see, even down to here, actually where you can hold.
Right.
I'll try and get it so that I, without me spilling it.
Oh, that's good looking on the bottom. I like that triangular part. Yeah.
See, just here, that is absolute, and it actually, you'll see it narrow down. It's beautiful for being able to just pinch like this.
Nice.
Now, see, when you're at whiskey shows and things like, and other tastings, and people are handing you their Glencairn glass and things like that, I don't know, but the bottom of the Glencairn is just that little bit,
thick.
For me, it can be a little bit fiddly when someone's passing it. See, when you're either allowing someone to nose from your glass or you're doing it yourself, just that little pinch gets it, you can get real good movement on the spirit. And then, of course, all the aroma will start to come up. And what you've got with the Glencairn, of course, is that aroma being concentrated into the narrowing mouthpiece. Whereas with this, you've got it, so that aroma will be narrowing coming up, but then it just sort of opens up again thanks to this flared lip. And you can really just, in terms of ergonomics of the whole thing, it makes for a great nosing and tasting experience.
All right. Well, we're going to have to find some down here. All right. Panel, on the palate, what do we get? And we're going to go opposite way, so I'm not always picking on Rich the first time. So, Paul, what are you getting on the palate, buddy?
Vanilla, and that cinnamon on the back end.
Oh, cinnamon. Okay. Sure. I go to kind of a white pepper thing, but cinnamon I can go to as well. Sure. Dave.
Well, the first thing the thing I like here is the mouthfeel. I get a viscosity. I get I don't know if richness is the right term, but I feel like I've got something in my mouth and it's not drying. and it really plays right on the front of my tongue where it's the malt. And you said it was 75% wheat, Aaron, which really surprised me. And I can see where this is coming from is from the wheat that was put into it.
Yeah. So the spirit, the spirit itself, as we say, the 25% malt in there, I think that really, I think you really do get that within there, but you've got the sweetness of the grain spirit coming in. But just what you were saying, as you were saying there, Dave, about the mouthfeel, I always say about the sort of viscous mouthfeel. And I'm just sitting here, I don't know if you'll actually be able to pick it up, but just the oils coming down my glass, and they just stick there.
Same as mine.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it. I don't know if it says anywhere else, but this non-chill filtered, non-colored, and when you saw the spectrum room, you got a good idea that it wasn't. Correct?
Sorry?
Non-chill filtered, no coloring added to any of this.
No, we chill filter as well. Now some spirit, again, depending on strength, we will then decide whether we chill filter or not. I actually, even when I'm running various bottling runs, I will actually, before I run to the bottling line, I will deep chill a sample before I decide even then whether to chill filter or not. So it really does depend, because if there is no requirement for a chill filtration in terms of you've taken a batch sample that you're about to bottle and you found that, at the cool temperatures, you're not getting haze, you're not getting anything like that, then I would be okay to run it. You obviously filter the liquid, but you just don't go to those lower temperatures. So that when I was lucky enough that I used to work with Diageo and had great experience with things like that. When you're with a big company like that, they'll just say, that product is chill filtered to this temperature and it gets this amount of color, or it gets no color, etc., etc. The great thing about where we are, when you're independent, you can make calls as you see them, and when you see them, because as we all know, different casks react in different ways. And you can get different liquid coming out, between two different casks. So for me, it's all about, we're independent. We have the time. We can sit and we can look at those sort of things, right down to the minutiae of saying, for particular runs, how are we going to filter compared to a run 2 months, 3 months down the line.
Now, you have different levels of filtering as well, right? Because it's not just non-chill filtered and then all chill filtered, right? There's like a 50% or 75%. Is there such a thing, or is it just one or the other?
Well, all the spirit will be filtered,
right? But
regardless, okay? It's just then you have the ability to reduce the temperature of the liquid as it's being filtered. Yeah. Some people may not try and chill the liquid. Some may try and chill it down to 3-4 degrees. And that means you're going to absolutely have no haze, but you may have the chance of removing some of those fatty acids and long chain carbon molecule that you might not want to remove. So it really is. It's all about taste. I keep saying it's like a chef. As you're doing things with something, always tasting, always seeing where you are, seeing where it's at, and then making a call.
Okay. That's good to know. Rich, you getting the mouthfeel as well? Because I am.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's nice and thick. Quite surprised. A lot of not that I'm a connoisseur of Irish whiskey, but a lot of the Irish whiskey I've had in the past has been a little thinner. And coming in at 43%, I was expecting something a little thinner than this actually is. But and on the palate, there's something, there's a really lovely tartness to it. I think some people are saying lemon. For me, it's a little more earthy, almost like something I've never had before, but rhubarb ice cream kind of thing. So it picks up those vanilla notes that Paul was saying, and it's got a bit more grr to it than what I would think of as lemon. But yeah, no, it's really nice. It is.
I'm getting biscuity, like an arrowroot cookie, so like an oat vanilla cookie. So I don't know, Michael, if you have arrowroot there, but it's a child's oat cookie, very sweet, and that's what I'm getting on.
Can I throw in there also that before COVID, You remember the on-trade? Do you remember bars and restaurants? Remember that? And you
Yes,
go to a bar. Remember those days? The old days, back in the day. We were talking to London bartenders and New York bartenders at the Dead Rabbit about this whiskey, because we realized that as well as our base whiskey, the small batch is of course, it's very, very fruity and lovely and so on. But that virgin oak in the 5-year-old, we're now seeing that as a bartender's whiskey, because as well as sipping it in the Irish way, where as we're all sipping it, it's lovely and so on. But that in cocktails, that is the whiskey that really comes through. The virgin oak, the spice note comes through in an old fashioned and so on.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And actually, in August, my first travel since 15 months or 18 months or whatever it is, in Brooklyn, at the big bar show in Brooklyn, which is going to be everybody back together again. And we're going to be there. And the 5-year-old is not only going to be a sipping whiskey, because it's our most successful selling whiskey in the States at the moment, but it's going to be a bartender's whiskey. We're going to start really pushing that as something that you can put in a cocktail.
And we're going to have a cocktail with this in the after jam in a little bit. And what did we decide on? It was the old fashioned, correct? We're going to do that. I think that's what we're doing.
It's lovely, yeah. Really lovely.
To it. And just really quickly, Aaron, I'm going to go back to you if we can, because you're not only trying to create great whiskey to bring money into the coffers right now, but you're establishing what you want to do in the future, right?
Exactly.
So can you make a link for all of us, what you're doing now and how that's going to link to the future? Because we know it's you've told us it's source whiskey. You don't hide it whatsoever, which I love. But you do want to connect this to what you're doing in the future. So you're planning on doing a 5-year-old in the future, correct? A double wood.
Yeah, and whether that stays exactly as this guy's at the minute, that again will be up for debate. But what it's certainly what we try and do with every one of the SKUs that we have at the minute and every one of the whiskies, we try to make a link between, yes, it's source spirit, but the reason why we're bringing it to you like this is because in the future. So if I talk through them, the small batch that we have, I know we're not tasting it, but I'll just quickly go through each one. The small batch is pretty much the 5-year-old in terms of 75% grain spirit, 25% malt, but it's all matured in the ex-bourbons. And the reason why we're doing that is because, the bourbon cask is going to be such a large part of the inventory of our casks. Up to maybe 70% of everything that I put my new make into could be ex-bourbon. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the 5-year-old, then we just wanted to see, right? Okay. Well, what else can we do? What can that virgin oak bring to it? And really, the difference, I saw somebody said on the screen here, I can tell the impact the virgin oak has had. When you taste the small batch and then taste the 5-year-old straight after, the difference is uncanny. The small batch is really vanilla, real toffee, those sweeter notes. Yeah. But with the 5-year-old, that wood has brought in this spiced element. So the reason why we were wanting to do that is because I'm wanting to experiment with double maturations. The reason why we went with a 5-year-old also is because, yes, you won't see. Well, so I'll come back to what I was about to say there, because I was going to say you won't see great scotches and things coming out with 5-year-olds because they're well established. Now I'll come back to that. Look what Ardbeg did with the wee beastie.
Yep.
Because people are interested in trying these younger spirits. And now you've got established distilleries now sort of backtracking to say, well, what do you taste our liquid when it doesn't have to be 18-year-old? Mm-hmm. Whereas we're in a really privileged position in that we say, okay, here's what we did with source liquid. Now we're going to let you try right throughout the progression. And very rarely will you get a distillery in the world where you can do that. You can taste from as soon as it becomes legally whiskey. You'll taste it as soon as it's into, those 5-6-year-olds. Don't get me wrong, I won't release anything unless I feel that it actually is able to be released. You don't just go picking numbers and saying we're definitely doing a 5, because if you come 5 years later and that spirit is not where it's meant to be, then you're waiting.
True. Yeah.
But you get where I'm trying to say. This is why we've sort of picked certain things. The 10-year-old sherry finish. I have new make as we speak maturing in sherry. Normally sherry's just thought as a sort of afterthought in some Irish and Scotch, just finishing. Whereas we're putting new make into bulk sherry casks at the minute. Again, it'll form a big part. And similarly then with the peated, because what the distillery is all about is single malt. So we were delighted that we could actually get our hands on some peated single malt, and it's at the level that I want to be producing at, because I want to be sourcing a malt at a 55 ppm, triple distillation with it, may even do some doubles with it for those who are wanting that bigger phenol punch. But our first delivery of peated malt, it's going to be within the next month here, and then we'll get the peat reek going through the distillery. So everything that you see in front of you now, although it may not be exactly the same whenever we're using our own spirit, you will be able to join the dots of, I see why they were doing that.
And that's the line there. And you talked about the new make, and I heard Jamie talk about you making the new make available as well. So I'm not sure in what level you are, but I think that's a phenomenal idea. And I've been visiting a lot of distilleries this summer. I'm a teacher, so I've had some time off. And to taste the new make and then taste a 1, 2, 3-year-old is phenomenal. I love that. And the fact that you're doing the same progression with the 5 and it makes me happy. And I think it brings the customer into you as well, where they feel like they're part of how you've grown up as a distillery. So I think it's a really smart thing, but it's something that I really love on a personal whiskey drinking level. And I know not too many people out there want to taste new make, because I don't know why they wouldn't, but I think it's fantastic. So if you're putting that out there, I want to try your new make at one point in time.
Well, we'll certainly get a sample across to you, because that is one thing that certainly I'm not afraid of when people visit the distillery, that they try the new make, because for me, how do you make a good whiskey? It comes down to two things for me only: the base character of your new make spirit and the quality of the wood that you're putting it into. Simple as that. Some people can try and override any type of spirit character with the wood that they put it into, because what you're really, in essence, you can do. I'm not saying any. I'm just saying you can do. You can knock out high volume spirit, and just right now we put it in. Now we worry about taste. Now we worry about taste by worrying about wood. Whereas the backbone, and again, this is where Terry's great, because he allows you. He buys into this of spirit character must be able to shine through. You must be able to taste the original distillery.
Nice. Good.
12, 16, 18 years down the line, regardless of what you've put it into, that must be able to stand up to the wood. And that's why when people come on site, I have no problem. I take them down. I remember the first day that we took new make off the spirit still. Mm-hmm. And then you think, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we're looking for. But when I think of the first time we actually filled in the cask, and the smell in the filling store was incredible. It was
November 9th, 2020. There you go.
Yeah, that was the first spirit. But the first filling day, I can only describe it like a blackcurrant, blackberry, like nice. the berries that you get on the on the hedgerows here. It was incredible. Nice. I've never smelled anything like that, and I've been in many filling stores. I worked in them, managed filling stores. It was incredible. But the underlying, that was an aroma. The underlying taste on the palate is this malty, grainy, like a sourdough, rye breads type, biscuity, and that is exactly where I want to be. with a single malt.
Nice. And we're talking about single malt, but you're also going to continue to source your grain because I was thinking you might be in the distillery and we'd see the stills behind you, but you don't have a column still. So I'm assuming you're going to keep sourcing your grain, correct?
Absolutely. And that is, that is just something that is, if you look at Bushmills, for example, that it's a sort of strategy mirrored by other people, because what we are is primarily a single malt distillery, but we understand and appreciate, the quality of a blend. And, we are not, good grain whiskey is good grain whiskey. And, we don't need to be going out there and building column stills to be everything 100% from Hinch. We really want to focus on that malt element, and that's where we want to play. I know there are some sites that have both, Tullamores and Great Northern and things like that. But we are primarily malt, and therefore we will continue to partner with quality providers of grain spirit.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's good to know. Because we talk about malt, and often we think single grain is something to stay away from, but it's important to a blend. And which leads me to another question. You're doing the blending yourself, Aaron, or do you have a master blender? Are you master distiller, master blender, or are you everything?
Jack of all trades.
That's good.
So we now, don't get me wrong, we are very lucky at the distillery in that the likes of Michael, we have some young great distillers working with me that we've been able, when I look at it, we were opening up a distillery in Ireland, and when I went to resource for the distillery, I'm thinking, chances are I'm getting no one with distillery experience. It's going to be it's going to be me taking guys through and really just bringing them from the ground up. But as long as they have a good work ethic, etc. But lo and behold, when we went and we recruited, we got some great responses. We've got some great distillers in there, and it really helps because when you have the likes of even Michael, who's a wealth of knowledge in the category, when I am coming to it's time to go into the warehouse here. It's time to see what we've got. We'll sit in a we're still quite in essence a small team, and we'll just sit in the boardroom with our nosing glasses, our samples. We'll make them up to different ratios. We'll make them, and we just like any tasting panel, we go through and we see what fits for us and how we think that spirit should be then released.
Thank you so much. I'm leading us into kind of a long question, so stick with me, gentlemen. Stick with me. So here's the first quote. Now, this article from Andrew Hardingham states that you're thankful for the few distilleries such as Bushmills and Middleton that were able to keep the distillery alive. And then there's another quote. There's always been a historical nod to Irish whiskey as a quality spirit, but what we're doing is bringing that forward. So I want to talk about this two parts, the quality spirit component, and you're bringing it forward. So if that's all right. Now, I'm going to look at the distilleries that were able to stay afloat over the long, lean years. So Kilbeggan, Cooley, now owned by Beam, Bushmills, Casacavo, which used to be Diageo, Jameson, and Middleton, where now Pernod Ricard. They're massive operations, and they ensure quality and consistency. And there's a good thing to this. But Michael and Aaron, you both have firsthand knowledge of this and how consistent they are and how they need to be consistent. But perhaps a little more having worked at Diageo, is it important for you to stay that consistent? Because you can break away from that now. And I want to know how much you are devoted to consistency compared to innovation. I want to know where you guys fit in there, if that's all right.
Well, can I give Aaron his introduction?
Okay, please do.
Not stealing his show or whatever. because my background, I worked in Irish distillers with Jameson for 13 years, and then I worked for Cooley for 6 years. So I remember the days of the have-nots when Irish whiskey was, I was there. We went knocking the doors, and honestly, it was very hard. It was very tough. And it was almost like this Irish whiskey is super smooth, easy to drink, ergo, not really, proper whiskey almost out there. And Cooley, and particularly my time in Cooley, what we did was we really challenged that. We came out with double malt, single grain, peated single malt Connemara, lovely brand Tyrconnell. We really, really pushed the envelope. When I arrived there, actually, I couldn't believe that it was just an open door. We went and pushed that door, but it was tough. But when then John sold that company for all that money, of course, everybody woke up to the fact, wow, this is different. So younger consumers, 25 to 35-year-olds, are very interested in this easier drinking spirit and so on. But it doesn't, and Aaron will touch on this and bring it forward, actually, because although we're very proudly part of this Irish heritage in the island, where we are of that ilk, triple distilled, lovely, easy style. Yes, of course, that's what we're going to do. But we're going to add edginess to this. We're going to be bold. It's in our mission statement to be bolder than that, because we believe that the new consumers that are coming into the category are, yes, of course, easy drinking style Irish whiskey, but they're very quickly going to be looking for the nuances. What's interesting? What's different about this? I've been to, before COVID, I've been to whiskey shows all over the world, and younger people primarily were coming, men and women coming into the category going, yeah, heard about this. What's different about it? So as far as I'm concerned, as a commercial director, and what Aaron will be tasked with doing, and he's done a great job with this, but it'll all be the big rewards in the future, is we are going to state our mark by being proudly part of what's Irish whiskey's about, but being bolder about what it's going to deliver on the taste and so on. And that's Terry again. Terry's behind that. Aaron delivers it. I have to sell it. That's the golden triangle. But the beautiful thing is that I've been in enough markets to come back to tell the guys, to tell Aaron, to tell Terry, to tell the team, I've been there. I know there is an absolute wide open door for this new bolder spirit from Ireland. It's honest to goodness. It is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Aaron,
passing over, and bringing it forward. Talk to us again. Piggyback on what Michael said about you bringing it forward. What's that?
Yeah, so that's it. Because again, I keep sort of going back to the freedom that we're allowed at the distillery, and if you look at the Hinch story, it very much mirrors my own personal story. So with Hinch, what we're saying is in County Down, there was a huge tradition hundreds of years ago where people would ebb and flow between Scotland and particularly this part of Ireland, County Down, because it is so close. You're talking, if I only go from my house here, I can, 5 minutes and I'm looking at Scotland. There was a tradition of distillery workers going between the two countries, because people owned back in the day distilleries on both sides and they transferred them back and forth. Now, I actually, of course, started off in Scotch with Diageo. And on a personal level, we then, during my time, we actually acquired Bushmills. And what became very apparent was you'd been working in Scotland with distillers. The company had now acquired Bushmills, and and I'm in the position, because I was then asked to go to Bushmills, you were in the position where you could see what each really thought of the other. And it was just misconception. It was judgment based on nothing. And it's quite frustrating, because you've worked over here in Scotland. You appreciate all of the quality that goes in here. But you're also proudly Irish. And you're sort of thinking, your mind goes, hold on, guys, you can do both. You don't have to. It's not a one or the other. And that's exactly where we're bringing it forward in Hinch. If that's probably the best way that I can describe it, because if you think of Scotch and you have the whiskey wheel and the flavor profiles and you have those segments and distilleries dotted all around, Irish whiskey doesn't afford that to consumers at the minute.
Yep.
And what we're saying is, why not? So it's time that we are able to start producing spirit of different characters, of different taste profiles that, goes away from this misconception of, triple distilled, it takes out all the flavor, you've got milk. It's just this middle of the road, and that's just nonsense. That's a Scotch opinion on Irish. Similarly, Irish of going, oh, well, you're just harsh. It's double distilled is harsh. And we can we've set the distillery up deliberately to be able to double distill, triple distill, whatever we want, because we want to break those misconceptions, and we want to say double distilled can still be a mellow spirit, and triple distilled can still be, full of character. So that's where we are trying to bring things forward. And, I still hold, if you do look at it, if you really want to get into the technical files of both Scotch and Irish, Scotland probably is held under a bit of a tighter regulation. And I think, why should we not also be playing up there? So, enzymes and things like that, which you can use in Ireland, we are not using at the distillery because I just want to see what we can get from the malt itself, from the grain itself for our single malts.
And you've got the stills to do it. You've got the big stills, you've got the onion head, you've got just the slight incline. You can get a triple distilled with tons of character out of that. So, but we're going to talk about that in the after drown, because, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking for an hour and 6 minutes already. So that, my friends, is the first edition of our international whiskey journey. We're going to move our conversation from this more formalized, a little bit more relaxed, more engaging. We're going to be there with Master Distiller Aaron and Global Head of Sales Michael. And really, what better activity is there on a Saturday afternoon for us, Saturday evening for these guys, than spending time with fantastic people and drinking beautiful elixir of life? So we're going to be back 5 minutes on this channel, The Spirit of Edmonton, with the After Dram. If you don't want to miss a minute in the future, click on like, click subscribe. And gentlemen, with the last little drops left of this, we didn't even get to the peated one, but we will in the after dram. We're going to drink a whole bunch more and catch up. So thank you all. And we're going to see you hopefully back in 5 minutes. Sláinte.
Sláinte.